So it's so interesting with this Tether app that you've got going. I'm really keen for people who might be listening to this to have a sense of what they might expect by coming onto the platform, and also maybe what kind of guys you're expecting to connect with this.
I think there's a lot of different types of guys that could benefit from this. So this ranges quite broadly. We've thought a lot about this, and I think for a lot of people, especially like ages 30 to 45, what we've sort of started to see is that by the time a guy hits the age of 30, like a couple of things have happened. So he's typically now, 10 years plus out of high school. If he's done any kind of post-secondary education, he's probably a good chunk into his career. By this time, a lot of people are getting married. They're starting to have kids. The traditional relationships that we relied upon so heavily growing up, and the amount of time that we spend with our male counterparts significantly decreases at that time of age. So you're out of high school, so maybe you've lost touch with those people a bit, or people have moved or had kids, or then now they have families. From a university perspective, you're not in that container that you're in all the time where you're seeing your friends regularly. A lot of people have jobs where they're working very long hours. And then the other piece, I think, is by that time in life, something has typically gone wrong that's maybe rocked the boat a little bit, right? So in my case, when I was 30, my friend passed away. A lot of people may have been laid off from a career, or their career isn't advancing at the rate and speed that they thought it might. Perhaps they've dealt with the illness of a family member, or the death of a parent, or a divorce, or something has happened in their life by that time that's made things very real for them. And I know growing up, especially in the modern world, we're not really prepared for these types of things to happen. We've been coddled as a generation. I know my generation especially, with helicopter parenting, and we've just grown up in a period of like sort of peacefulness and all of this kind of stuff. So there's just not as much adversity that people go through. So I think by that time in life, you've gone through a little bit of adversity. And so that's one piece of it. And then in terms of the platform itself, we're starting very, very basic. What we're doing is we're developing a mobile application where you can go on, you can participate in these things that we call threads. So there are cards that are on different topic matters. You can reply to other people. You can like their comments. You can even send them something called an honor badge. So if you really resonate with a comment that somebody's made or a post that somebody's made, you can send them a badge that reflects that. And then as people start to accumulate badges on the platform, they become like a trusted member of the community, a trusted voice, something like that, right? So you'll get different titles that indicate certain levels of status or a certain amount of contribution to the community. The other thing that you can do is when you click on a person's name on that content card, you'll be able to go to their profile. And from there, you'll actually be able to direct message that person. So imagine somebody makes a comment or replies to a certain comment thread where you really resonate with what they've said, and you think this is somebody that you might have a good conversation with. Well, when you go to their profile, you actually see that you're actually dealing with a lot of the same issues. That may prompt you to want to actually reach out, build that one-on-one connection. And so what we're really allowing guys to do is actually participate in dialogues on a variety of different topic matters related to things that are actually important to them. We're letting them build one-on-one relationships with individual men. Like one of the things that men have not been taught to do is actually build and develop friendships. Women are given a lot of the skills to be able to do this kind of stuff with personality traits that are encouraged in them. But men aren't really encouraged with a lot of the personality traits that are so essential, especially compassion and empathy and things like that. Things that really make for a good friend. And so we want to start facilitating those one-on-one, peer-to-peer type relationships. And then finally, what you'll be able to do is once you're talking to a whole bunch of men on this platform, once you really feel connected, we're going to give you the ability to actually form groups. So through the chat functionality, you'll actually be able to form, groups of anywhere between 3 to 6 men, where you can then start to really build those new networks out and also those support structures that are so important. So what we really want to do is we want to give you the opportunity to build a community of guys that get it and that are operating on the same wavelength as you, which from my experience and from the experience of a lot of other men is just a critical part of this process, is making sure that the guys that you're networking with can really get it. And that goes back to my earlier point that we talked about, where making sure that the people that you are going to receive support from are people that can actually go there with you.
It's interesting. A lot of times, guys, when they're in groups, the predominance is one-upmanship and competitiveness.
Of course.
I mean, it's obvious. You see it in sporting fixtures, you see it at bars, you see it at all sorts of places. So I
Yeah.
wonder, online and in your platform, the things that you're thinking of building in that make it the right environment.
Yeah, and I think that's super important, right? And I think that comes down to the values of the community and why we're there. It says very explicitly with what we're building that we want to create a safe, barrier-free space where all men, regardless of economic status, race, sexual orientation, can come and get the support they need for the things that are going on in their life. So very much up front, we set the tone that this is a community that's about providing and receiving support, not one-upmanship. So I think that container and that understanding of the community that you're coming to is super important. The other thing is that we have a manifesto that we have on this community. And one of the particular points that I really like is this idea of meeting a man where he's at, not where you think he ought to be. That one-upmanship and that tendency is like, we want to be in this competition. We want to be ahead of somebody, or we think somebody should be at a certain place and they're not. And so we try and outdo them to kind of get them up to our level or whatever. And I think it's the wrong approach. I think what we want to do is we want to be just like it was like in my first men's group meeting. Nobody was trying to push me to do anything or to be a person that I wasn't at that moment in time. And so I think if we foster a community where how a man is showing up, we just need to hold space for that. And we just need to give them the space that they need to actually emote in the way that they need to, go through the things that they need to. And so if we can just simply create that container where all men feel welcome, regardless of how they're showing up, and they're getting that support and they're getting that feedback from other men in the community, I think that will do a tremendous amount to actually prevent a lot of that competitiveness that can then turn into an environment where it's like, I don't actually feel supported on this platform. So I think that's really important about making sure that wherever somebody is showing up, that you are meeting them there and letting them know that that's okay.
Just help us understand in terms of it's the will of the group and there's a reciprocity, but the will of the group is the thing that makes the particular culture different to how we would typically be, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
So the governance around it is not so much a disciplinary one, it's about a masculine culture.
I think it's really about sort of saying, these are the types of men that we want to attract to this platform. But it's not even just about the types of men we want to attract. We want every person to come to this platform and to begin to understand that there is another way to behave. And there's another way to behave that allows you to feel significantly more connected to the men around you and to everybody else that your life comes into contact with. And you know this just as well as I do, right? We are programmed very early on, both by society, by male influences, by so many things, to actually act and behave in a certain way. But what's really incredible, and I've seen this firsthand on men's retreats in my own men's group, when the circle and the container is created such that the understanding is that this is a space for honesty, vulnerability, compassion, open sharing, and support. What's interesting is men actually get the signal pretty quickly, and they can drop into that very quickly. So I actually don't think that it's like men are actually incapable of doing this. I actually think it's quite the opposite. I think that men want this. Men want these spaces. They just need the permission to know that they can go there. So when someone is showing up in that space in a way that is supportive of that culture, that other man's going to follow suit, right? And I always make the joke, it's like, why don't you see cat videos on LinkedIn? Because it's a business network. So it's really about the context that you create. And I think for me personally, I'm a big believer that the context of the community will dictate the content of what comes out.
It's a valuable thing to think about, how we can take culture and we can mold it with group consensus. So I really, really like that idea. I think it's great. Mm-hmm. A lot of things that are proposed as helping, sometimes they have an intent of driving people toward professional help or helping them see professional help in a different way. Just wondering, do you have a vision for Tethr in that regard?
I really believe that everybody's recovery is different. And so for some people, they're just not going to resonate with one-on-one therapy with a therapist. Some people aren't going to resonate with groups. Some people aren't going to resonate with hypnotherapists, like I've resonated with it. So I think it's a really important and personal choice that a person needs to go on that discovery process by themselves. What I do think is that the community and the understanding that there are other men who have walked this path before you, and that there are other men who are trying to better themselves, who are willing to hold space for you, who you can connect with in that deep and meaningful way. I think for the most part, that is that is exactly what we're trying to bring. That community and that feeling like you are not alone, and this is a space where you can reach out and receive and provide the support in a healthy way, and actually connect and have these conversations with men. That is the most important thing that we're building right now. And I think the biggest thing that Tethr stands for. In the future, I could totally see us building out ways for men to access resources, practitioners, all of that kind of stuff. We need to see where things go. We need to see what men really need. We're still in a process of discovery and self-discovery, to be honest, with Tethr. And I wouldn't necessarily want it to be limited to one thing or another. I think, digital therapy right now is a huge piece, and there's a lot of companies doing the digital therapy process. I think it works great for some people. I think it's too expensive for other people. So what we want to provide is like a free and low cost alternative for people to receive the community, the support that they actually need. And the most important thing, in my opinion, is actually giving men just that community and the permission to start having these conversations. That's my biggest goal.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I think it's a really a great idea, great product coming down the line. And speaking of which, it's close to being launched. Can folks sign up in advance and sort of keep up with things? And how might they do that?
People can sign up in advance. We have a website that you can go to. It's www.tethr, and Tethr is spelled Tethr, so no E in there at the end. So TETHR.men. And yes, there is a domain that is .men. So it's www.tethr.men. And there's a join our community button in the top right-hand corner of that webpage. If you join the community, we'll send you an email as soon as the app is ready to launch. You can also follow us on Facebook, and our company page is Tethr. Again, that's TETHR. You can also find us on Instagram and LinkedIn. And Twitter, and the handle for Instagram and Twitter is @TethrForMen, so TETHRFORMEN, and then you can find us at Tethr on LinkedIn as well. So we will be providing updates. We will be providing links where you can actually download the app when it's ready. So we'll be giving everybody plenty of opportunity to sign up and plenty of opportunity to figure out when all of this is going to be up and running.
Fantastic. It's been a pleasure chatting with you, Matt. I firmly believe that when these products come through and when people make an effort based on lived experience, I think they can do such wonderful things for community. And I love the idea of changing a masculine milieu, so to speak, and helping us find some safe spaces. I think it's really important. Mental health research program is delighted to endorse this and be part of this, and wish you all the very best with it, and look forward to continuing the conversation. No doubt we'll be able to touch base in a few months and get a bit of a progress check-in perhaps.
Absolutely. And, you're just an email away, right? So I appreciate the support that you've given me personally and professionally on this project. And the partnership with the Men's Health Research Program at UBC is really such a boon for us. I think it adds so much credibility to what we're doing, and we want to make an impact, not only, at the individual level, but, eventually down the road at the policy level. We really want to help governments and help men understand this problem and then figure out what it is that specifically men need in order to feel like they can open up, get the support they need, and get better. We just want to help guys live happier, longer lives. That's our biggest goal.
Great to chat with you, Matt Zerker. Thanks for the work you do, and thanks for connecting with us today.
Thank you so much, John. Appreciate it.